Hello everyone and welcome to Queeria, a bi-weekly podcast where a queer couple dives into all things gaming, movies and more. Welcome! Firstly, some introductions are in order for the two people who are going to be taking you through this podcast. My name is Jade, otherwise known as ScarletRebel in many places around the internet. I'm known for my LGBTQ plus video essays on YouTube, mostly about queer characters in the video game universe Destiny. My pronouns are she, they, and I am a bisexual person. And as for my partner in crime, his name is Trystan, and he's going to introduce himself to you now.
Hi, I'm Trystan. I use he, him, and they, them pronouns. I am a transgender queer person who has a very deep love of all things Destiny, very deep love of all things Zelda, lots of lore, lots of deep world knowledge. I'm that guy. I also really like anime, so I will be here to talk about that as well. And just in general, I am lending my voice as the other half of this podcast.
So, why create this podcast, and what is with the name? For those of you who are listening to this podcast and know me from the Destiny community, then I wouldn't blame you for thinking that Queeria sounds a lot like Queeria, because that is intentional. When myself and Trystan started talking about making a podcast, I jokingly commented that we could name it after the big bad Vex robot boss of one of Destiny's season, who was called Queeria, the Transformed Mind, but change it to Queeria to reflect what we want to discuss on this show, which is all things queer. Our goal here is to create a space to talk about anything, and I do mean anything with a queer interpretation to it. If you are a queer person listening to this, then you'll know that sometimes it's hard to talk about your favourite show, video game, movie, or anime with someone who doesn't quite get it, for lack of a better phrasing. They don't understand the way you view two same-sex characters, they maybe are a bit too nonchalant about certain interpretations of a narrative, and that's not to say that one interpretation is better than another, or even malicious in any way. Sometimes it's just nice to see things and talk about things from a queer perspective, and that's what Queeria is. A queer perspective. That's not to say, however, that queerness is all we'll be talking about. We are queer people and our perspectives will always be as such, obviously, but honestly we'll mostly be talking about whatever we want to, not necessarily the queer topic of the day. We just want to set the expectations. We're not necessarily talking about queerness in general, we're just getting our queer little hands all over the media that we like and are expressing how much we like it and talking about things we want to talk about in this podcast, and hopefully creating a space for other people to feel like they can do the same and feel heard. Now, to kick things off, it's worth mentioning that we would consider the topic of the video game Destiny as a home base. Destiny is basically a big thing that we will be talking about most of the time on this podcast. We'll be talking about it often and with great enthusiasm. We of course have an absolute wealth of content to cover over the release of Destiny's newest expansion, Witch Queen, but we won't be letting that stop us from talking about our favourite anime, movies, video games, and anything really. Nothing is off the table. For example, the new Jujutsu Kaisen movie that we are so excited about I can't even talk, is coming out in March, and we are absolutely going to be doing an episode covering that. Thus ends the only scripted part of the podcast, and the final thing to say is that we will be swearing, we will potentially be discussing mature topics, so listener discretion is advised, and with that in mind, our very first topic today is Destiny's current and technically ongoing season of the Lost. Welcome to Queeria.
So to sort of get us kicked off, I'd like to recap Season of the Lost, starting at the beginning, the very end of the last season of the Splicer. Osiris disappeared, showed up in the Dreaming City. After a very short little run and tug, we end up meeting him next to Mara at the end of it. He turns into Savathun. Savathun was in Osiris the whole time. So everything that's happened since essentially Beyond Light released, Savathun has been, well, no, it would be Season of the Hunt, wouldn't it? When Sagira died.
Yes.
Since that point, Osiris has been taken hostage by Savathun, and she's been using his body as a doppelganger. That comes to light. Mara traps him in a crystal. It's the first time Mara and Crow have seen each other since Crow is reborn in the light. It was really interesting, really tense. You got to see Saint be so upset about his husband. We love to see that. We love anytime Saint and Osiris get to interact with each other. Everything they do is so good.
Even if it's Saint screaming, no!
You would not survive that.
That's one of my
this is
favorite
one of
lines
my
in the
favorites too.
game.
And then, after that, there's this plan kind of fed to us. We're given a compass, told to map ley lines and rescue Techians in the Ascendant Plane, deal with Savathun and Xivu Arath's forces as we do. Towards the end of the season where we're at now, as we're recording this, I just want to say it's January 23rd. We do not have a resolution for Season of the Lost, but you can see the ley lines in game now, so that's pretty cool.
That is cool.
So we're waiting to see what happens with this ritual in which supposedly Mara thinks she's going to exorcise Savathun's worm and stop the threat before it starts, but I have thoughts. And yeah, that's kind of what's going on. Crow's gone. Crow touched Savathun, crystal ma'am person, and got a nice flashback to who he used to be that was probably all bad stuff. So he's gone. Mara's angry. Petra's angry. Everybody's very tense. And we're just kind of waiting on the resolution for all of that.
Yeah, Mara basically told us that she was going to be taking Savathun away for a while and waiting for the right time for the exorcism, and we are waiting for that right time, essentially, whether it'll be the week before Witch Queen, whether it'll be anytime soon. Bungie aren't shifting, no matter how many emails I send.
Damn it, DMG!
Sliding into those DMGs? No,
come on.
no. I'm gonna regret that. We are 7 minutes into this, and I've already regretted something. But anyway, we're going to jump straight into something which is very queer and something that does not get talked about very often.
Let's talk about Crow and Uldren. Jolyon.
Mm-hmm. But Trystan, who is Jolyon? I don't understand. Tell me who Jolyon Tildarakis is.
She says that like she hasn't heard me go on this rant a million times prior to. Jolyon Tildarakis is...
Or has got the supremacy rifle from Last Wish a million times.
Yeah.
Before Trist ever got it.
Anger. More flashbacks. So Jolyon Tildarakis is one of the crows. One of Uldren's crows. Was his best friend. Closest confidant. There was very clearly in the Forsaken Prince lore book something more than just camaraderie, something more than just friendship between them.
Mm-hmm.
Uldren trusted Jolyon above everybody else. Uldren knew that he could turn to Jolyon no matter what, and Jolyon would be there for him. Jolyon, in what little we see of him from the point where Uldren was imprisoned and then killed, longs for that friendship again. He longs for that person again. He misses Uldren. And Mara, Mara doesn't do anything by accident. She has made a solid fucking point of telling him to stay the fuck away. And that's what I'd like to start talking about. The lore card that comes with this conversation, or that keys into this conversation, actually comes on a ship that you received during Season of the Lost. It's called Reefborn Warbird. So correction, it was actually a lore card on a sparrow. The sparrow is called Eternal Recurrence. Flavor text: the faster you go, the sooner you come back around. Jolyon Till. And basically, Jolyon goes, he's out in the Dreaming City. Petra shows up, finds him shooting at things on a range. Basically, they talk about Uldren. They talk about him being reborn. They talk about Jolyon's discomfort. Mara telling Petra to keep Jolyon away, and Petra relays that message. And he kind of ends that by saying, "I still dream of the garden."
So, to back it up a little bit, because Jolyon Till, I feel like, is such... Jolyon Till, I feel like, is such a not very well-known character. I feel like people know about Marcus Wren, people know about Enoch Bast. I feel like Jolyon Till is not among them. He's almost not known as well. Maybe I'll be corrected on that.
Nobody pays attention to Jolyon unless they read The Forsaken Prince in detail.
Essentially, yeah. And that part that he says in the law book, the law page that you mentioned, him saying, "I still remember the garden." It's important to know that if you haven't read the Forsaken Prince law book, basically Uldren sort of convinces, again, his crow, his best friend, the person he trusts more than anything, to go into the Black Garden with him because he wants to surprise Mara, because Mara is a terrible sister who ignores him. So Jolyon, of course, goes with him, and they both come back from that very different, very changed. A lot of very weird things happen in the garden. Go read the book because it is very, very good. To talk specifically about their relationship in the lens of being like queer, I think it's really important to note that me and you heavily think that, well, not think,
there's a line.
they're gay.
They are. They're very gay.
They're gay.
There is actually a
They're
comment
lesbians, Harold.
from Uldren's perspective towards the end of the Forsaken Prince book when it comes to light that he's being put in the prison of elders. He comes face to face with Jolion and for a brief moment thinks to himself, did I not want something from him once?
I have it pulled up right here.
Oh.
It says, it's the page 3, part 2. And it says, they take him in with a full strike team, and one of the snipers, joining Uldren and his jailers at the extraction point, looks him full in the eyes, like he's asking a question. A tall man with a long rifle, narrow, intelligent eyes. Handsome. Did Uldren want something from him once? Something important? Uldren absently rubs his eyes as he stares at him. He frowns, but he can't figure it out. So, I mean, handsome is a very big thing there.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really interesting that it says he looks him full in the eyes like he's asking a question, almost as if Jolion is like, what happened to you? How did you get here? Like that almost heartache.
See, that's interesting to me because I feel like that's such an often used trope of somebody who hasn't seen someone they love in a very long time looking them in the eyes and that unspoken question of, are you still there? You know, are you still the person that I love? Do you still have the same meaning to me?
Yeah, exactly. I think that because there's a piece from Forsaken where Petra asks something of Jolion. I think it might be the Supremacy Rifle, actually, but I know that Petra says something to Jolion in regards to Uldren or in regards to like something to do with after his death, and Jolion's like, no, leave me alone, I don't want anything to do with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
everything Jolion does, everything Jolion does post Uldren dying is very, I need to move on from the fact that this is the man that I loved and he's no longer here. So it's super interesting, these little tidbits that we've gotten through Season of the Lost, because I'm pretty certain, don't know if it was the Season of the Lost or if it was another season, and you'll find that I do this a lot. I will be like, there's this thing that I'm thinking of. Was it this? Was it that? Oh no. And then 5 minutes later I'll figure out what the thing I'm talking about is. Essentially, I'm pretty certain there's something where Jolion gets called to Mara and the word of brother gets used and Jolion is like, well, yeah, he was my everything. I was loyal to him. I
remember that. I'm pretty sure that was this season. I couldn't tell you what it's on, though.
Well, that's the thing. We've had pepperings of Jolion after Uldren, basically, and Jolion deciding what to do now that Crow is back in the light. Could you read me the part from that lore page where he talks about what he's going to do, or rather not do, now that Uldren has been reborn in the light?
So, Jolion is at the shooting range with Petra. Petra's telling him, he goes by Crow now. Jolion, one of my favorite things that he says is, Jolion snorted, ironic, only Uldren could make immortality a demotion. Which is hilarious. It tells you everything you need to know about Uldren as a character. In that short little moment of time. And Petra says, he took a lot of abuse after he rezzed, breaking the silence before it could fully settle, and never knew why, gave him a bit of humility, if you can believe it. Jolion lifted his head, shifting his focus to the scope of Petra's inscrutable expression. He raised an eyebrow. I'd like to see that for myself. I know. Petra pressed her lips together in sympathy. That's why I'm here. Mara thinks it's best if we limit his contact with others. Keeping him in her pocket, huh? Uldren might have changed, but it sounds like Queen Mara is the same as ever. Petra's tone hardened. Be that as it may, you've got your orders. Stay away. It's fine, Jolion says with a smile. It did not reach his eyes. I've gotten used to Uldren being dead. Probably best he stays that way. Which is just heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking.
Yes. Hurts.
And you know what as well? And I'm sure like the gays will scream when they hear this, but that reminded me a lot of the Song of Achilles for some reason.
Yes, oh my God.
I have no idea why. Maybe it was just the way that it was written and the way it flowed, but it just sounded very, very much like...
Uldren and Jolion's relationship is so Achillean in nature. If you've read the Song of Achilles, you know the relationship between Patroclus and Achilles. It's something that's heavily debated.
Debated.
Because nobody likes gay people in history. We're not allowed. We aren't allowed to be there.
And, you know, I know that when my bro dies, like someone who I didn't have any romantic feelings towards, I would go on a fucking crusade. Like, I know that I would just be like, oh no, my bro died. Let me kill this entire army single-handedly. That's just that's my bro.
It's the bro code.
The unspoken bro code.
But no, for real, it's so Achillean because there's the longing, there's the deep-rooted need almost, but knowing that there are so many million of other things standing in the way. It's interesting because I would like to see Jolyon flip his shit about it. I would love to see him go Achilles about it, because if you look at it through that lens, Uldren is Patroclus.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. And also, the page that I was referencing earlier, it actually came out in Season of Arrivals, which is really interesting. So it's on the Holdfast mark, so the Titan mark. And the flavor text is, in remembrance of those who never saw the sunrise after battle's end. So it's Jolyon kneeling before Mara and talking about the Black Garden. Mara being awful.
The absolute worst, like she always is.
I'm trying to place the time. It sounds like Uldren is still alive in this lore card. The last paragraph, basically Mara, it sounds to me, and I'm very much skim reading because I don't want to just sit here in silence for 2 minutes and be like, but it seems to me like Mara has essentially let Uldren off the hook for going into the garden, but she's bringing Jolyon to be like, what the fuck did you do? Why did you take my brother in there? And so he's basically getting very frustrated by that because
he smiled at me.
Basically, he's just like, of course he went into the garden because he was trying to impress you. I'm pretty certain he says that. Yeah, he didn't enter the Black Garden to defy you. He did it to impress you. Why else would he risk so much? You're the only thing in the universe that would drive him to such lengths. Which, if you read the Forsaken Prince lore book, that is something that you only find out in Uldren's own narration. He never says that out loud.
Nobody else knows that about him. Except Jolyon.
Yeah, no one else. And like, I mean, maybe Uldren would have told him that, but I think that Jolyon, after spending so much time with him and being in love with him, would definitely have been able to see that. At the end of the page, it says, as emotion welled up within him, Jolyon found the courage to raise his head and meet the Queen's lofty gaze. Again, very Song of Achilles. Uldren is my brother too. I love him and I would follow him anywhere. I would follow him into death if he asked, just as he would for you. And if you call that treason, so be it.
Brothers in the same sense that Osiris and Sane are brothers.
I mean, are we really going to go on that tangent?
I'm absolutely going to go on that tangent because Bungie really does this. They go, brothers. Until it takes somebody like Robert Brooks coming out on Twitter and going, no, you fucking dumbasses, they're gay. I mean, like, it really just butters my biscuits. It does, because he said it best. Robert Brooks really did. Nuance is lost in a world of queerbaiting. And brothers, absolutely. I'm making air quotes, you can't see me. Brothers is such, it's nuance. It's nuance to make it more palatable to the heteronormative cisgendered crowd.
Oh, you know, there's a different meaning for it. Because I don't know the ins and outs of this, and this is one of those things that I keep meaning to look into because I'm very curious about it. But I always think of God of War, and I know you've seen very little from the new God of War.
I played the old ones, not the new ones.
Yeah. Basically, so with it being set in like Norse mythology, the character of Mimir, Kratos ends up carrying around his head on his hip, and Mimir just constantly calls Kratos and, you know, his son Atreus, I nearly spoiled something then. But, I mean, the game's been out for ages, whatever. His son Atreus, he constantly calls them brother. And I think that perhaps
wait,
brother...
Is the boy Loki?
Yeah, he is.
Oh, okay.
I spoiled that. Oh, I'm so sorry. It came out like 3 years ago. Shit. Anyway, just word salad in my brain. But basically, you know, he uses the word brother a lot. I'm not implying that Mimir is in love with Kratos. However, I feel like brother is one of those words that can be used, not flippantly, but maybe it is something that just, you know, like you said, it can be, but I worry about the notion of it being more palatable, because I feel like it's
then why lie? Well, I guess
exactly.
Why
you
disguise
almost
the truth?
I'm not saying that anyone on the Bungie narrative team is anti-gay or a gaslighter or anything like that.
It's not the narrative team I would worry about. It's higher up.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I would argue that it's a little bit gaslighty. You basically putting ammunition, and this is something that I don't know if a lot of people who try to write queer stories understand, that you're basically putting ammunition in the hands of people who will cry straight until they're blue in the face by saying by including things like Saint and Osiris calling each other brothers. That being said, though,
until proven otherwise.
Pretty much, yeah. I've never read The Pigeon and the Phoenix. However, they do start off with that. I should add it to my to read, but I'm pretty certain they start off, and I'm sure you can let me know. They start off as bond brothers. They start off as like having that loyalty, that like, I will have your back till the end. Again, very similarly to Achilles and Patroclus.
And it definitely evolves into something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it evolves, absolutely. So
all
that
good
usage of the word brother has just evolved. It still means the same thing as before they were together. You could use it interchangeably with friend, I suppose. I don't know.
And I mean, I don't know about you, but all the best queer love stories start out as friendships. They really do.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's so much more depth and dynamic to written and well, especially written queer relationships than there is to a lot of straight relationships, because there's so much, oh, the damsel falls for the strong man and blah 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 blah, right? And then like they've known each other a day and they're getting married. Whereas with queer people, you really have to dig that argument in the ground to be able to prove it. So it's a lot more well written. It's a lot more nuanced. And that's what kind of leads it into the realm of being straight until proven otherwise.
Well, that's the thing. I don't feel like, and I'm sure this is something that people have talked about before, but I don't feel like love at first sight is something that queer people get very often.
Ever, hardly.
I feel like they have to have that bond first, and they have to build that friendship, and they have to build that trust to, again, as you say, like, earn it. And I feel like, to bring it back to the topic at hand, I feel like that is something that happens with Jolyon and Uldren, especially in that particular lore page. You know, he's saying to Mara, Jolyon is my brother. You could also argue, again, through a queer lens, that Jolyon is trying to protect Uldren in a way by not letting Mara cotton on to the fact that he has such intense feelings for him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that the Awoken society is queerphobic or anything like that.
No,
what I'm saying
it's not.
Is that
it's just Mara's control over Uldren specifically.
And the fact that Jolyon is probably so frustrated that Jolyon can't see it, that Uldren can't see it even. Because there's nothing worse than watching someone who you love and care about very deeply be manipulated by someone who you know will never love them back. Mm-hmm. Not to get like really deep with it, but the idea that Jolyon was almost trying to protect them. Well, yeah, I appreciate that. So yeah, absolutely. I just think that I want more Jolyon content, but I think that in order to get more Jolyon content, we need to stick with Saint and Osiris first, because they are closer to being on-screen gay than any gay in
Bungie
Destiny.
Let them kiss at the end of the season.
I just think that they deserve that.
They do.
I really earnestly do.
That really leads into my new Vanguard theory, but please go ahead.
I will take, Bungie, if you're listening, and it'll probably be too late to change anything, but I will take a forehead touch. Yeah. I will take a forehead touch.
I would absolutely take a forehead touch. Hand holding. Just let them hold hands.
Hand holding. Let Saint cradle Osiris's body in his arms, for fuck's sake. I'm not asking for a lot. No one in the queer community.
Nobody has to use tongue. It's okay.
Just make the more not safe for work part happen off screen. So
that's what Archive of Rome is for.
Is that everything you had on your mind and heart about Uldren and Jolyon, my love?
The last thing you brought up with Jolyon and Mara and views of Mara, really it segues into our next topic, which is the fandom opinion of Mara Sov changing based on the information that we get throughout these seasons?
Yes, so I was recently on a lore cast, like a lore panel thing with a wonderful creator called Kaz PhD.
Was a
He
great
does a
panel.
lot of lore stuff. Yeah, it was really, really fun. It was with Little She-Bear and I believe his name's Six Coyote. I'm forgetting. I'm so sorry. But I'm sure by the time this episode comes out, that will be up on Kaz's YouTube channel. But Kaz does a lot of really, really great YouTube videos, and lore videos in particular. And when I was on that panel, I was really, and I think I said this to them after we finished the panel, I was like, I'm really surprised that you guys were so against Mara, because it's always a little bit of a surprise to me, because when you and I met, I wouldn't say I was pro Mara. Oh yeah. I wouldn't say that I was pro Mara when you and I met. I would say that I was very indifferent to her. And I feel like
me,
you know,
raving,
exactly like you said,
waving my anti-Mara flag from
frothing
the hill
at the
across
mouth.
the
Just
side.
let me tell you something, youngster. Yeah, I'm constantly surprised that over Season of the Lost people have started to see it, and especially on Kaz's stream, it was the moment where I was like, whoa, there's a lot of people who do not trust her anymore. So is fandom opinion of Mara changing? I think it is.
I absolutely think it is. I think the radiant information we get from lore, if you read the lore, what she's doing in season, like, it's very, very blatant. Everything with Ager's scepter. Oh god, I could talk about that quest for I could talk about that quest day in and day out, but I specifically want to touch on the lore card for that. Where basically Uldren is being a good prince. He is caring for his people. He's being friendly and jovial, and he's telling these kids this story, this beautiful story about these twin birds who are essentially him and Mara. And she comes up to him at the end of it, and it's like right before Oryx comes and smashes everybody's teeth in. She basically walks over to him after he finishes the story, and she's like, cut the shit. Stop being this way. You need to be serious.
I believe she says you shouldn't fill their head with stories, which is ridiculous because they are children. Their parents are most likely going off to war as they speak, and they're scared. And he's telling them that as long as you can see, you know, thunder and storms on the horizon, that's Ager and Rhaegar protecting you. And he's not just, you know, fronting his own image through that story, he's fronting Mara's image as well.
Right, exactly.
So she should be grateful. But she's not. Are we surprised? The Ager Scepter quest in general was... Would it be fair to say that that was the heel turn moment for the fandom?
That's rough. That's rough to say. I feel like a lot of people have lost faith with Mara as time's progressed. But I definitely don't think it's been as severe as it has been in Season of the Lost. Like, I feel like everything happened with the Forsaken campaign and the little blips of her that we've gotten here and there. She's just not very honest. But she likes to act like she is. And that lack of honesty, that lack of clarity has really... I feel like people have kind of caught on to the fact that she's a gaslighting, manipulative bitch.
I feel like as well, like, it had to hit home. It had to be Crow, who we have watched blossom over these seasons since Season of the Hunt. It had to be us. It had to be... Because Mara so many times...
Leave Crow alone.
It had to be something so personal to us for us to kind of wake up and see it. I would argue that her arguing with Ikora was a big moment for the community as well. A lot of people had a reaction to that.
And the latest voice lines in
Astral
Alignment as well, yeah. It's just she's not tiptoeing around it anymore. She's very clear, I will do what I have to get my brother back, whether it's manipulative or not. And it's just she's nasty. She is nasty. She's rancid, and people are really starting to see it. People are really starting to see that. I like to think, anyway, Uldren was never the bad sibling.
Do you feel vindicated?
That's a mixed bag. Yes, because I like seeing people realize how bad of a person, how bad of a sister, how bad of a queen Mara is. But no, because the way the fandom has really just kind of snatched jaws around Crow has put such a bad taste in my mouth. Either they're washing personality traits away from him, or they're woobifying him, as they really like to do with, pretty boys, or they're still on their Aldrin killed Cade.
Ugh.
Crow has to die for that sins of the father sort of narrative. And I'm so sick to the back teeth of that narrative.
I think saying that it's a mixed bag in terms of, like, people like yourself who have loved Aldrin since the beginning feeling vindicated is a very, very good way.
I was there for the Tumblr war where I got death threats and suicide threats and people threatening to dox me because I defended Aldrin very publicly.
Don't do that, people.
Even in the face of him killing Cade, like, I stood behind him. I still stand behind him. He was sick. There was clearly something wrong with him. He was not himself. And even when it came out, like when Forsaken came out and, Riven had shown up and was using Mara, the visage of Mara, to puppet Aldrin around, it just, oh God, it still puts a bad taste in my mouth. I hate her so much.
I mean, I like I say, I think the term mixed bag is good for people who are struggling to feel, or maybe do feel, vindicated about Aldrin if they've loved Aldrin for a very long time. It took me a while to get there, because I was indifferent to him until Forsaken, because, Cade is to me what Aldrin is to you, so...
You were indifferent to him until I sat you down and was like, look...
Well, you were the same about Cade, in fairness, so...
I still think Cade's the lipstick pig. Better. I still... Sorry, I do.
I know you do. But that hurts me. It doesn't hurt me. I
miss him, for what it's worth. I do miss him a lot.
I think that everyone wants to protect Crow now. And I think that it's almost interesting how the narrative of Crow having to accept who Aldrin Sov was is almost parallel to the fandom having to accept who Aldrin Sov was. And they are finally starting to accept that Aldrin Sov was manipulated, gaslighted, and abused by his sister.
Yeah.
Because we are seeing her ugly side, because she has finally met her match in terms of Savathun.
Cunning.
Which, yes, absolutely. Which is yet another great segue into talking a little bit about Mara and Shur. And what does that have to do with the Witch Queen, Jade? Well, I'll tell you. So, there is a lore card on a rocket launcher from the Forsaken expansion.
It's called Sleepless.
The rocket launcher is called Sleepless. Yes. Rocket launcher is called Sleepless. And why don't you go ahead and read that to me, Trist?
Well, I'm not going to read the whole thing. The long and short of it is Shur and Mara are in a room. Shur was sleeping. Mara tells her that she was, drooling. She's been reading books while Shur was sleeping. And Shur says, I was dreaming. I saw you on a great black triangle. You split it in two with your bare hands, and I was dead, I think. She cracks her neck with a deliciously loud pop. Or trapped, like in a maze, but pretty close to figuring my way out. Shur stands up to stretch. She does not mind that Mara is not listening. Let her read. And there was another woman with you. On the triangle, Mara murmurs. Yeah, she was helping. Then your brother showed up, and she shakes out her arms, frowning thoughtfully. The dream is already fading. He said Tropea, or maybe it was tropical. Anyway.
So, Mara and Shur is obviously another big queer topic in Destiny, and it's often been said, well, basically confirmed in the lore, even if nothing has really been said.
I just had a revelation.
You're making a face through the Discord call.
I am.
So essentially, Awoken are prophetic. That is something Petra has dreamed. She talks about that a lot. Shur obviously just had a dream of Witch Queen. The reason why we mention it is because the big black triangle that Shur talks about standing on is very likely one of the pyramid ships. And in Witch Queen, there is a pyramid ship inside of Savathun's throne world, it would seem.
And it looks almost destroyed.
It does. I also am pretty certain that is where the raid is taking place. I'm pretty certain that it said that on the information website. I will fact check that right now whilst you tell me what your revelation is. Please tell me it's about what Shur says at the end.
Everybody thinks that the other woman on the triangle is probably Savathun or Shur. What if it's Ikora?
That is interesting. Because I always thought it would be Eris.
That too. It could be Eris, but like, what if it's Ikora? Because Ikora is taking the narrative spear point lead essentially on Witch Queen, which I'm so excited for. I've missed her so much.
It would stand to reason, because of that, and also because Ikora is doing a lot of the liaising, if that's how you say it, with Mara in this season.
Mm-hmm.
I have always wondered, and maybe someone can like tweet at us or mention it in the YouTube comments or something like that. I've always wondered what that word at the end was. You know, when she's like, he said tropical, or maybe it was Tropea. I don't know. That's always been my thing. I've always wanted to know what he actually said or what it possibly could refer to. I have no idea at all, and it's always really annoyed me.
Wikipedia says it was an ancient Grecian town.
Tropea?
Mm-hmm.
But yes, sure, coming back in Witch Queen could be really, really big. Do we think it's possible?
I would love to see that. They've been building up to it. They have.
They sure have.
But the word Tropea, for a fun fact, a trophy, victory, or memorial.
Ooh.
A mark, token, monument of victory.
Weird.
So maybe if Mara splits this triangle in half, Aldrin showing up, Crow showing up, saying Tropea is him calling, he's Nike, which sucks. I've just realized because Nike shows up at that battle and she shouts, victory, and then she dies.
Oh no. Oh no. If that happens, I'll be so mad.
Yeah.
Oh,
Spoiler
God.
alert, sidearm. Everything
No,
new I figure
I'm not
out
doing this
points
again.
towards Crow. And I'm worried. I'm #concerned.
I'll be very...
If Bungie breaks my heart again, this will be what? 7 times? 8 times?
Several times. They double barrel it with Osiris too. Good lord.
I'll stop. I won't stop, but I will. That's always my threat. I'll stop playing, but I never stop playing.
You always come back. So I found it on the website. So it's basically like the info website page for Witch Queen, like, buy now, pre-order, and it tells you a little bit more about everything that's going to be in it. It says, new raid. Among the swamps of Savathun's throne world lies a sunken pyramid. Alongside your fire team, venture inward and confront the ancient danger imprisoned within.
Do I get to kiss the winnower?
See... Huh?
Do I get to kiss the winnower?
Oh my god.
Please.
Ask not if you can kiss the winnower will kiss you. I can definitely see... a raid inside of a pyramid ship sounds fucking awesome.
It does.
But also... I can definitely see that perhaps... Because sure, when she was talking about it in her prophetic dream, it seemed like she was just mostly viewing. She wasn't necessarily there.
Participating, yeah.
She just saw Mara on the triangle with whoever it is, whether it's Ikora, Eris, Savathun. She does say that the other woman was helping, so I'd be very surprised if it was actually Savathun, unless it's Eva Wrath. That's an idea.
I love that.
But I can definitely see that pyramid being cracked open during the story and us having to go into it as part of the raid. Unfortunately, though, sometimes there's a little bit of a disconnect in Bungie's narrative. I can also see the pyramid just being cracked for no reason, or maybe a reason that we find out in the lore of the raid itself. But I think that it being cracked open during the story would be more interesting. But obviously,
maybe
I don't
it has
have
something to
control
do with
over
the
these
ritual.
things. That is spicy. I like that idea. Moving us into our last topic. What are your predictions for the ritual?
Mara's gonna
Do you think it's going to be fine?
I don't think it's going to be fine.
So, here's the thing. When I was on the stream that I mentioned earlier, when I was on Kaz's stream and we were talking about Awoken lore and we got to talking about Witch Queen.
Oh, do we get to talk about the thrall?
Yes, we got to talking about Savathun's crystal. I'm really, really emphatic about this because you, Trystan, are the one that brought this theory up. I brought that theory up on the stream, on Kaz's stream, and I want it to get the attention it deserves because this is something that you figured out in terms of
a while
what
ago.
that crystal actually could be.
So in Season of Arrivals, Noctis obviously has come back again. He is in the Ascendant Plane. He's working for Savathun. But there is a lore card in which Noctis speaks to Savathun, but Savathun isn't speaking to him directly. She's using a thrall proxy. and it's
But
basically
he doesn't
just
realize it's a thrall
puppety
until
it's too
Yeah.
late. Yeah, until the conversation's over, and she's gotten what she wants from him. He realizes that she was playing him by using a puppet. And if you look at the crystal, it does not look like Savathun. It doesn't look like Savathun at all. It looks a lot like a thrall head. The soft, domey, you know.
and the crossed over arms as well. Like thrall do hunch over a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like when you think of a thrall in your head, you think of them in that crunched,
The
that
crunchy
hunched
position.
over. Yeah, snap, crackle, pop. Am I right?
So yeah, I absolutely think that inside that crystal isn't actually Savathun. It's just her thrall proxy. And she's gonna sacrifice. She's sacrificing its worm, essentially.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. It's such a great dupe because she needs a worm exercising. That's what she has said. But she doesn't need her worm exercising, she just needs another worm exercising. Because she's probably just been doing something in the background and has been distracting us this entire time.
It's all set up.
Would that not stand to reason?
It's all set up.
That's literally what she did in Osiris's body ever since Season of the Hunt.
Yeah, if we really think that the tricks ended just because Savathun outed that she was in Osiris's form, you're dumb. You're dumb. I'm just gonna say it flat out. If you think that she's not playing 4-dimensional chess on a 6-dimension board, you're wrong, because she is. She's had a lot of machinations going alongside and in tandem with what Mara's doing. So if she doesn't make Mara eat teeth, they're working together.
Which is a really interesting theory in and of itself. I think that at the beginning of Season of the Lost, I had notions of Mara working with Savathun. I think, personally, I don't know if you feel the same, you probably don't, but I feel like towards the end of it, I believe that a little bit less. It wouldn't surprise me if it did happen.
I believe it
I definitely
less.
don't believe it as much. Yeah,
especially
because
the latest Ripples card. Yeah,
that's what I was going to say. The latest Ripples lore card makes me feel like Mara is so genuinely frustrated that she has met her match. And I think as well, she wasn't expecting Savathun to be her match. She really wasn't. She took, well, in her own mind, she took Oryx down so quickly and painlessly, even though the Guardians did most of the work.
Because he was a terrible naval strategist.
He was a navigator. He wasn't. Ziva Wrath was watching that battle like, what are you doing?
You stupid
idiot.
bitch.
You've just sacrificed half of your
It's gone
forces.
to your head. It's made you dumb. Oryx transgendered and then
he transgendered.
he got the man stupid.
They gave him the dumb juice. Oh Lord.
Shit.
Yeah, I think that Mara is just so genuinely frustrated that she's met her match. It makes me wonder what her reaction is going to be when she gets fucked over.
I hope it's good. I hope she cries. I want to see her cry. I deserve that for everything
we all
she's
deserve
put me through.
I think we all deserve it. It stands to reason. Like, Mara... And the thing is as well, Bungie didn't even necessarily need to go out of their way to make her unlikable. They really just had to, like clean off the window a little bit and make it so that all that lovely purple...
They pulled your rose-colored glasses off.
They sure did. They just had to, like, wipe that purple screen a little bit so that you saw what Mara was actually like. You didn't have to, like, go through a million logic puzzles in your head to be like, is Mara a bad person? Because she really just lost her whole shit, basically.
Nobody wants to talk about the fact that she sacrificed 2/3 of her population to create her throne world, but I mean, pop off, she's still good, I guess.
Which, again, is another, like, really nuanced thing that you wouldn't understand if you... You wouldn't understand if you didn't read the lore. But, genuinely, if you hadn't read anything in Forsaken, you wouldn't know that she knew she was going to die, and she needed to sacrifice her people in order to be able to create her throne world, in order to be able to do whatever. We don't know what her ultimate goal is. We really don't. Is it power for power's sake? I don't think she's genuinely trying to keep the Awoken people safe anymore. I think she's trying to keep herself safe.
Absolutely.
But what the fuck does she want? Is she a Cersei Lannister, or is she a Littlefinger, you know? Like, we really don't know what breed of I want power she is. We don't know if she feels like she's entitled to it. We don't know if she feels
You're
like...
not gonna like me, but I think she's more Daenerys than either of those two.
Interesting. Tell me about it. Because you don't like Daenerys, and I like
I
Daenerys,
hate
so this will
Daenerys
be interesting.
Targaryen. I cannot stand her. To cut a little bit, Daenerys was somebody who started out very weak, very much relying on the help of other people. Mara, in the beginning, relied on her brother, relied on her mother, relied on the people around her to be the footing, to be the foothold for her to gain power. And once she gained that power, she became of the mind that she was entitled to the power, and she was entitled to the adoration that came with it, which inevitably led to her downfall. And it's really interesting to me. Love was what killed Daenerys Targaryen, essentially. People like to play it that way. People like to frame it that way. I think it was her hubris. But the show frames it that her love and her trust for... Yeah, badly. They frame it that her love and her trust for Jon Snow were what killed her. When in reality, I definitely think it was her hubris. And it's interesting because in the new Astral Alignment dialogue, Petra makes a point of saying that Aldrin was always a fool for love. No, that was in one of the transmissions. That was in the latest transmission that we got at the little kiosk.
Because she was talking to Glint.
Yeah, she was talking to Glint, and she says that Aldrin's always a fool for love. So if we take it from that angle, I really hope that Aldrin is her downfall. That would just I get chills thinking about it.
That would make a lot of sense to me. I can see Crow, because there's been a few, if you go on Bungie's website and you look at some of the promotional images for Witch Queen. I mean, you've put one on the Queeria website. It's Mara with all the Techians around her. I know that there is another picture from, I would assume, the same scene where Saint and the Guardian are stood in the background. So we're obviously going to be there for that. But I can totally see Crow swooping in and doing something or saying something, not necessarily to benefit Savathûn, but, you know, something happens, and it's Crow that is the linchpin that makes her lose whatever footing that she had. Not on purpose, again. Like, I don't think he's going to Jon Snow Marisov. Crow strikes me...
He's too compassionate.
Yes, he strikes me as the kind of person who would find it really difficult to be mad at someone. He doesn't know how to place boundaries.
Wow, I wonder where that came from.
Yeah,
Not the years of gaslighting that his former self went through. No, has nothing to do with that.
I think he just really wants to see the good in everyone, which is why he was so desperate to speak with Savathûn, because in his own mind, yes, Savathûn was puppeting Osiris, and Osiris might be dead, but she still helped me. She still understood me. And she's a Crow sweetie, baby boy. She's a trickster god.
I think Crow wants to see the best in everyone else because he wants to be able to see the best in himself. That's a very distinct thing to make known. Because Zavala is the type of person who wants to see the good in everyone because that's just the kind of person he is. Crow wants to see the good in everyone because he wants to be able to believe that there's good in himself.
He wants to be able to believe that someone could look at him and see the good in him the same way he does with them. Which is so heartbreaking.
Relatable.
Very relatable. How can you tell me that man is not a queer icon?
Honestly.
Like, I think that the idea that Crow could be the thing that loses Mara everything at the end of Season of the Lost, whether it's on purpose or not, makes a lot of sense.
If that happens, I need somebody to make an edit of it going down with Mitsuki's I bet on losing dogs in the background.
I mean, yeah, I was gonna go with what you say.
Fair enough.
So that's just the two different kind of people that we are.
Yeah.
Thank you to everyone who has listened. Thank you so much for watching if you're watching us on YouTube. Here come the inevitable plugs and links for this podcast and for my self-interest in general. The first most important place that you can go to find out more about this podcast and who we are and what we do on the internet is to go to queeria.squarespace.com. You can find every single one of our social media links there. That being said, if you want to know the specific things, on Twitter we are at QueeriaCast. That's QUEERIACAST. You can also follow a Twitch channel that we have where we will be endeavouring to do monthly streams, which will be starting in March. That is twitch.tv/QueeriaCast. Exact same spelling. We will also be uploading these episodes to YouTube and hopefully at Spotify at a later date. It's worth mentioning that it is really hard to find us on YouTube just by searching us. I wonder why. So just head to our website or head to our Twitter, where we will be linking the episodes when they go up, and hopefully find us there. If you think you can find us on YouTube, it's the exact same spelling, but it's just Queeria this time. So Queeria.
And we'll pin all these links at the top of our Twitter page.
Absolutely, yes. That will be a very easy place to go to find everything as well. We also have a Discord that we would absolutely love you to join. I feel it's important to say that you don't have to be queer to join it. If you just want to interact with us, if you want
be part of the conversation.
Exactly, be part of the conversation. If you are queer and you want to have a space to talk about these things, like, please join. We would love to have you. If you're looking for like fire teams in Destiny full of queer like-minded people, we can absolutely facilitate that there as well. Again, just search Queeria, Queeria. That word is going to start to sound very weird after a certain amount of time. And again, you can look at our website to find the invite as well, and on our Twitter. You can find myself at _ScarletRebel on Twitter and ScarletRebel on YouTube, and you can find my lovely co-partner and the light of my life and the love of my heart, Trystan, at ExordiumNoctis on Twitter. Get used to it. Get used to it. Anything to say to the crowd?
I hope you guys had as much fun as I did. It was great.
Yeah, lots of fun. All right, folks. We will see you next time, and make sure you keep it queer.
Keep it queer.